Hello, everyone. My name is Rob McDonald. This is my JUS360 Law and Social Control presentation, my case study of the wrongful conviction of David Gett. The agenda for this presentation are first going to be going over the facts, timeline of the case, the murder of Roberto Cruz, and eventual wrongful conviction, critical issues raised by the case, uh, legal critiques of the legal system where law fell short as a theory, some essential statutes of Illinois state law, a couple perspectives which lend valuable insights into the case and why it may have gone the way it did, and then we'll wrap it all up. So first facts timeline of the case. January 29th, 1999, Roberto Cruz is shot and killed outside of Bristol Lounge in Chicago, Illinois. Um, After this, the case sits for a while. Anonymous tips are made. One would mention one Ruben Hernandez, who would be arrested March 3rd, along with Richard Quill separately. Ruben Hernandez would be arrested regarding a February armed robbery. Richard Quill would be arrested that same day, a couple hours before Hernandez, regarding him driving a stolen vehicle. Being interviewed that day, Hernandez would tell the story of the Cruz killing, as he was mentioned in an anonymous tip during February. From his telling, police would determine Richard Quill to be the gunman. They would never explain how the two ended up getting arrested on the same day, despite questioning. They would just say it's a coincidence. After questioning Hernandez, Detective Ronaldo Guevara goes and interviews Quill, who admits to his presence at the scene but denies being the gunman. Instead, he implicates 18-year-old David Gett. During this interview, Quill would lead police to an apartment of his, which they would search and find a gun, which would be forensically determined to be the murder weapon. That same night, after finding the murder weapon, Guevara would go to Gett's house. Gett's mother would testify that without a warrant, Guevara would enter the home and illegally arrest, as well as search Gett's room. And later that night, Gett would be interviewed by Guevara, where he would report being slapped, punched, not allowed to sleep, not fed, and eventually he would say, I don't know where I was. I was with my girlfriend to stop the abuse, is what he would testify. Upon mentioning his girlfriend, Guevara would leave and go take her into custody, threaten her with being arrested and the loss of her baby upon having it in jail if she didn't confess to Gett doing the killing. And eventually she would feel forced, sufficiently threatened by Guevara to testify that, yeah, I think David Gett was involved in the murder of Roberto Cruz. Upon getting that confession, Guevara would return to Gett, increase the severity of the physical abuse, punches leading to chipped teeth, bruises, etc. And Gett would later give a court-reported statement on the murder. And within the month, or sorry, just a year later, March 23rd, 2000, Gett, Quill, and Hernandez would all be convicted of first-degree murder based on the accounts obtained that night by Detective Guevara, despite all three of them testifying to physical abuse and coerced statements admitting to the crime. Gett would receive a sentence of 45 years, Quill 30, and Hernandez 60. So what is the critical issue exposed about our legal system from this case? That would be official misconduct. Coercion through mental and physical torture led to false testimonies during this case. And despite laws against official misconduct, defendants would not be heard, and testimonies regarding the abuse of Detective Ronaldo Guevara would be thrown away. Notably, Detective Guevara has been uh, exposed for a long-standing history of torture, and you can see on this slide a list of names, people exonerated after being arrested from coerced admissions. So what major critique do we see about law, about the legal system from this case? That misconduct is ignored, despite laws defending citizens from official misconduct. These unrealistic expectations of the law, unfulfilled promises by agents of the law, by police, by judges, would lead to a severe miscarriage of justice. Police were unrealistically expected to remain legally and socially normal while addressing crime and applying the law, and judges and juries during the trial were expected to be without error in sentencing and assessment of the evidence. And like I said, despite law to defend people from official misconduct or from mistrial, from not being heard in that way, it happened. So why? Well, to start, we're gonna begin with the entire case was under Illinois state law. The initial case is just a homicide covered by Illinois General Assembly Section 9-1 for first-degree murder. And eventually, laws that would be important in rectifying the wrongful conviction would be perjury in the form of false accusations and official misconduct, found in Illinois General Assembly Section 32.3 and Illinois General Assembly Section 33.1. So one perspective that is particularly important in analyzing the case is the critical legal studies lens, which proponents may say the wrongfully convicted had their testimonies ignored due to their status as poor. Some of them had existing records, notably Hernandez and Quill. Get actually had a clean record, and the combined legal social incentives of the case. The social incentives for the judge are not to side with, unfortunately, past criminals, right? You're gonna take the word of the detective, if in the judge's shoes, whether or not he is a good or bad cop, you know he's a detective. So, when he testifies, no, I didn't do this, it becomes easy for the judge to make that decision not to charge misconduct, because he's not incentivized to go through the process of figuring out whether or not Detective Rivera did or did not, misconduct interviews. The judge is incentivized to get people to prison who need to be in prison, according to the law. On top of Guevara's social standing, Get's gang involvement, pregnant girlfriend, and poverty were probably not a great deal of help either. So another important perspective is structural Marxism. Marx argued that material and social conditions play a large role in application of law in social interactions. This case is evidence of that. Get testified that he was tortured, abused by Rivera. Rivera testified that he was not. And the main thing that separates the two men is their social standing as a officer of the law and a citizen who, a young man, pregnant girlfriend, poor, involved in gangs, likely not headed down the right path. The first thought of the judge is ultimately not going to be to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. So status and incentives definitely play an important role in the case. In conclusion, there are various useful theoretical lenses through which one can try and gain an understanding of the conviction of David Gett. Critical legal studies is very important in understanding the shortcomings of the system, and Marxism, as well as critiques of law through Um, Unfulfilled promises offer insight into how the structure of the system failed the wrongfully convicted, um, and not just the choices, uh, and how they were not only failed by the choices or best intentions of officers of the law, judges, police within the system. Uh, Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Yeah, appreciate it.